Hello and welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, episode 53. I'm Kurt.
I'm back on the top. Nightson.
I am Handor.
I am currently looking at a website on how to get my Lux weapon in Final Fantasy. Hi, Oreztes.
End of line.
And Gigett! Our spotlight topic tonight will be a review of the games we played at Pixelcon. We'll be talking about various different RPGs and what we played and our experiences with them. But before we get to that, end of line, do we have any announcements?
We have a few announcements. The first announcement is that our next upcoming stream is going to be our Paper Scandal Suede, which is our Savage Worlds game that we just started. We just finished up episode 2, and our next episode 3 will be on June 11th at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That is the Supernatural Investigation program using the new Savage World Adventure Edition that is coming out. Gigett was a contributor to the creation of it, and so we have an early access copy of it, and so we're running it.
Yeah. Very excited.
That is actually the only announcement we have right now.
It is. All right, well, let's move into what we're excited about. Endo, take it.
We've been having a lot of internal discussion between some of us here on the stream and then a few of our friends about WoW Classic, World of Warcraft Classic, that's coming out in August, and just kind of like reminiscing over like the nostalgia of it and how the game was then, and the system and classes and abilities and whatnot. It's been a lot of fun to chat about, and kind of got a bug to play it. So myself and one of friends of the stream loaded up a private server because we did not get into Classic, and we've been playing that. So we were more super excited about Classic. We're having a really good time with it, and it feels as good as I hoped it would, and so super excited to see how they handle the servers and everything, and how everything's going to go. But very excited for WoW Classic to come out, even more so now than I did before.
I'm super looking forward to it because I wasn't there for WoW Classic. I didn't start until Gigett and I didn't start playing until like almost right before the Wrath of the Lich King came out. And so we didn't get to see all of those early quests, and there were achievements by the time we came in. Like, so I'm curious to see how the game was at launch and like what the grindy mess is gonna feel like. But mostly, I'm excited to go through and read all the quests. Apparently, since you can't accept the quest till it stops,
you can
playing the text.
So I was losing my stuff when I got into the server because I was like, "Oh God, I'm gonna kill myself." And then I remember that there's an instant quest text option in the option. So you'll be able to do that if you. Okay. But you guys are gonna be reading them anyway, so.
Yeah, I think Gigett and I we're gonna take turns like reading them in funny voices and stuff. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. The thing that's been the craziest thing so far is as we're playing, every time we level, it's like an exciting thing. Like every 2 levels or so, when you level, it's not just like, oh, cool, I got a level. It's like a huge thing. You get, the next rank and abilities, and it feels significant.
Got to go back to town. Make sure you saved your gold to buy your talents.
But yeah, we literally set our bind point in Goldshire because it's the easiest place for us to go and train ability.
Right. It had nothing to do with something else that happens in the inn.
No, it had nothing to do with that. How dare you?
There's a night elf up there just dancing.
We don't talk about what goes on in Goldshire. We will only talk about the antibiotic vendor that's in the second floor of the
inn. Cool. Well, I'm excited for the new Dark Crystal show that's coming out on Netflix in August.
It looks so good.
It looks really good. There's a trailer out for it that came out like this last week, and it looks real good.
Mm-hmm. Are they going full Muppet with it?
I don't know.
I don't think so, but it looks like they've taken care to make it feel like the old Muppet look, right? Like they didn't go super CGI with it. You can tell that there's there's enhancements. Like they're not, even if they are practical, Muppets at certain points. It definitely looks like they've done some work over it, but it doesn't look so different that it feels,
Okay.
out of place.
It's definitely using the puppets though.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's using the puppets as the characters, but it's like real life actual sets with the puppets in it, just like Dark Crystal 1 was.
Yeah, that's what I was getting at.
But there's definitely some cleaned up stuff, but it looks like the old puppets and stuff. So
It looks real
How
good.
is the CGI on David Bowie's package?
that's the wrong movie.
Yeah,
Wrong
that's
movie.
No,
That's,
it's
that's
not.
Labyrinth.
That's Labyrinth.
Every 80s movie that has puppets in it features David Bowie's package.
I'm
It's
pretty
in there
sure.
somewhere.
Just
Dark
his package,
Crystal,
not-
Labyrinth. What was that one
Legend.
with Tom? Yeah, Legend.
How did I know it was gonna?
Devil.
I was
Legend.
guessing.
Temporary was the devil. Had David Bowie's package CGI on there.
Fraggle Rock.
It's all the same. Yes.
Oh yeah, Fraggle Rock was nothing but package.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Doozers just doing it
Yep.
Yep.
with David Bowie.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the Doozers means.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I'm excited about. Dark Crystal coming out in August on Netflix. Woohoo!
Very nice.
Yay.
I'm gonna add something I'm excited. I just now realized. I'm excited to see what it feels like to walk around with this extra 20 pounds that I gained when I went to California. I'm excited for that. I want to see, what it's like running upstairs with an extra 20 pounds on you. What it's
Get it.
like standing up out of a chair with an extra 20 pounds. Just I've really thought these things out, so
Yeah,
I'm excited for that.
You're
I mean,
excited
it's-
about getting fat. That's awesome.
Sitting is easier because you're
Getting
your ass
fat is
Sitting-
awesome. It's the being fat that's not so great.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It's similar to weight training in Dragon Ball Z.
Gotcha.
So just
All right.
give it a few weeks, and then you'll be jumping like 30 feet straight up.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right.
So the thing myself and I'm guessing Oreztes is excited about is the
I
Final
don't
Fantasy
know.
expansion coming out next month. Well, yeah, in fairness, he might not be. They finally released their job. They do like a job preview. They do all the abilities and everything, and now the NDA is lifted for all the media tour, and so a lot of information is coming out for the expansion. And they're treating tanks really, really well, making their lives easier and giving them all kinds of goodies. And saying, healers, we want you to stop doing the things that you enjoyed doing.
Oh.
Heal more.
Yeah, I don't get to be a
'Cause-
green DPS anymore. They're taking all my deeps.
Oh yeah, because you didn't
Very
used to have to heal
unsettling.
very much, right?
I mean, a lot of the stuff in 14 is scripted, so you kind of know when you get familiar with the encounters. You kind of know when damage is incoming. So as a scholar, you can throw out shields and barriers and stuff to kind of offset the incoming damage, and then just a little bit of heals to make up for it. But as a scholar main, a lot of the time you spend throwing out damage. But yeah, they're changing it. Apparently, there's a lot more damage coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So-
Yeah. If you remember in like WoW back in like Cataclysm days is when they finally embraced the healers. If healers aren't healing, let's give them something to do other than just sit there and regenerate mana.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Final Fantasy took that to heart. It's literally, if you're not damaging, you need to, we're going to let you deeps and you're going to do pretty decent damage. And they're like, we're going to pull that back. Don't know why, but it's unfortunate.
I'm thinking they're pulling it back because the healers up until this point have all been totally unique. Like all the mechanics have made them just completely unique. There's no comparison. Like they each do completely different things. And in order for them to balance the healers and introduce a new healer class, they need to kind of homogenize the healing role a little bit. To have a base point for creating a new class, which is unfortunate. I don't know. I'm still going to play Scholar.
And more interesting news on that front, which is useful for any MMO player. They're adding a support class into a traditional, Trinity-based game, which is something that most games have shied away from. So I'm curious to see how it's going to pay off, and can WoW do it, kind of thing, or the other big players.
Which
is that
weird.
what Dancer is? They're just support?
Yeah. Which is weird to me because 14 is Final Fantasy 14. Final Fantasy 11 was straight up support classes. Like you could multi-class. Like I played a Dancer Bard, and it was nothing but support. You did literally nothing but support, like throughout buffs and cleanse and cure and stuff like that. There was no damage expected. I walked around with a spoon because that was the best support weapon.
Okay.
So, yeah. Anyways, yeah, I'm excited for 14. I'm not touching WoW with the 10-foot stick. I've been playing World of Warcraft since beta, so I've lived through vanilla once. That's all. That's all I need to do. I'm happy with it. So I probably will not be touching WoW Classic.
Cool. All right. Well, I'm excited because Good Omens on Amazon Prime released yesterday or 2 days ago.
A TV show?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, David Tennant is
What?
playing
Crowley?
Ooh, hey, wait a minute. David Tennant's my favorite doctor, and Crowley's my favorite character from Supernatural.
right?
What'd you think of it?
David Tennant's playing a demon. I'm not allowed to watch it because
I'm working my way through the
somebody hasn't
audiobook
finished
right
the
now.
book yet.
And then we're going to watch it together.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut then.
So I'm looking forward to it. I've seen a lot of the different trailers, and it definitely does not look like it lines up with the book much. But I'm still excited for it either way. So.
Okay.
And that's
As
the
soon
Terry
as-
Pratchett thing, right? Or
It's
Neil
Neil
Gaiman?
Gaiman,
Both.
Terry
Gaiman.
Pratchett.
Both.
Yeah.
Okay. Aha! I got both of them right. That was lucky. Guys.
Yeah, it's good. The book is really good, and I like the person doing the audio, the reading for it. So
Yeah.
the audiobook has been really great.
Cool.
So if you're a fan of if you liked the show and didn't read the book, go check out the audiobook.
I have to listen to that.
Yeah.
Yep.
When he does his Crowley voice, it even kind of sounds a little bit like Tenet. I don't know who does it, but we
Anyway,
can move on.
so let's move on to what we played recently. We kind of talked about this a little bit, but Final Fantasy.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Y'all been playing that?
Yep.
Yep,
Playing it this morning.
I've been playing
I
the
did.
single player version of Final Fantasy.
Oh man, I just looked at your quest last night when I asked you where you were, and I was like, "What quest are you on right now?" Ooh man, I don't want to dishearten you.
I
What
did
you-
warn you.
You've literally got 300 hours of single player game.
Yeah, I
It's-
told you.
Every once in a while, someone's like, "You should come play Final Fantasy with us," and I'm like, "Sure, totally." And I log in and I play probably 10 to 20 hours of Final Fantasy over the course of a month, and I advance that main story quest. I am still not to the first expansion, which I own.
That is the
Cannot
problem.
use.
You really can't play with your friends because you have to get that MSQ done.
It's a
Like, you
single
have
player
to get
game.
through the main. I know that's the thing though, and unfortunately you can't do certain content until you unlock the things and you unlock them through the MSQ.
I was
Well, I
telling
mean-
Gigett today that levels in that game don't matter. It's main story quests. Like it's like when
True.
old school WoW, when you would be like, "Well, I'm level 30 and you're level 70, so we can't play together."
I think Nightson may have gotten abducted by aliens.
I'm pretty sure
Yep.
that's what happened.
I mean, I think for your birthday, I think I'm gonna get you that MSQ jump potion. And
Yeah,
I'm
but
gonna
But then
log
what's
in
the
your
point?
account.
Yeah,
I'm
why
gonna log
play
in
the
your
game?
account and eat it and make you eat it.
That is definitely
Drink it.
That is basically
Drink
the
the
same thing as
potion.
like the money cheat in Sims, right?
Mother load.
Yeah, it's
No, I mean
Oh,
you
God.
could always. Oh, he's dead. You could always just go to the inn and watch the movies, or there's a YouTube channel where the guy just plays all the movies. And he's like story time, Final Fantasy.
To be
14
fair,
story time.
skipping the MSQ doesn't level up your character. It means
Skipping the MSQ does not level your character, but it does get you to the unlock portions of the MSQ faster and get you through the MSQ faster. And if you're having fun with the story and actually following the story and enjoying it, that's great. But if you want to play with your friends, you need to burn through that, and then you can watch it later when nobody's logged on.
Yeah, but I mean, if you're gonna watch it once, you might as well just watch it in game and get the levels right.
I can't bring myself to skip it because otherwise I don't know why I'm playing the game. Because the gameplay of Final Fantasy is not all that inspired. Like, it's just another MMO, and so if I'm
It's
not,
because you're playing a class that you're probably not having the best of times on. Because you have to get to Heaven's Word to unlock Machinist, which, let's be honest, is what you are, IRL. If you could be a Final Fantasy class, you would be a cowboy with a gun and robots.
I mean, yes, okay.
It's literally only my cam that got jacked up, huh?
Well, you're still in your box, so we're
Yeah,
just gonna
it's
keep
just-
going and we'll
Face
see what
Face is
happens.
just real big.
Because I leaned way over.
Hang in with us.
Like, hey,
there.
look at me, guys. Let me in here. I want to be.
Well,
Let me play.
well, sorry, audio folks. We had some technical difficulties, and our video is a little messed up. So we're going to talk about it now for a second.
Yeah, Nightson just texted me and said his internet died. He is currently restarting his thingy. He'll be back.
He'll be back. Hang with this video. We're going to continue like nothing happened for the audio.
With Handor just kind of leaning. He looks like he's leaning.
Ooh, I'm going to do a
wrong way.
stream marker. Add.
Gotta go this way.
There we go.
So let's
Cool.
let's move on to our topic.
Let's talk about Nightson's game first.
Right, since he's not
Right.
here. So the
Right
topic for today is about a recap of the games that we played at Pixelcon. So Pixelcon is a yearly trip that we as a group take every year. We go to various locations. Last year we went to a tiny western town, which was super awesome. We have pictures of that up on our Instagram, so if you want to go look at the tiny western town, you can go look at that. This year we headed back to the coast, which we've been to a bunch of times, but to the central coast of California. Rented ourselves a beach house and had our Pixelcon adventure, which was like 4 days we were all together.
Mm-hmm.
It's why Handor gained 20 pounds, because he ate for 4 days straight.
Oh my god, that's all we did is eat.
All we did was play games and eat and drink.
I'm still trying to drink water to catch up because all I had was beer for 4 days long.
Yeah.
Water.
Yep. And welcome back, Nightson.
Yep. Stupid Comcast.
So let's talk about one of the first games, or one of the games we played. Kurt, why don't we start with yours?
Sure, we can talk about mine. I ran Monster of the Week, which I dubbed Monster on the Westbound Train, which is funny because there was no train in that game.
There was no train in that game.
We never got to it.
There could have been. We don't know what happens outside of town.
So I've taken to running Monster of the Week as a Western. I really love Monster of the Week. It's PBTA, Powered by the Apocalypse. It's a game about monster hunting and shows like Supernatural, Buffy, anything where there's like every episode there's a new monster, right? Monster of the Week shows. And so I started running. I ran it as a Western once, which went really well. They hunted some werewolves. So this time I was like, you know what? We're gonna do vampires, because next week vampires. And we're going to put him on a train. They're going to have to do a train heist. It's going to be awesome. And then we'd spent a lot of time doing investigation in the town. And when that ended, we got to like 3.5 hours, and they were fighting the minions that were going to give them the location to the main boss. And I was like, nah, the main boss is here. You guys don't have to go do a train heist now, because it was going to take another 1.5 2 hours to do that.
So even though we didn't make it to the train, what do you feel like went well in your game?
I really liked I thought the intro went pretty well. So the way I started it was I had everyone around a campfire, and I sort of like set the scene, and then I tried to introduce some Western elements, right? Like the cowboys are sitting there, they're getting spooked. You guys are sitting around the campfire because you know why you're here. There's a monster out in the wilderness, and so that felt very Western-y at the beginning. It took a little longer than I wanted it to. I kind of wanted people to just get up, do their thing, and I was gonna we were just gonna immediately have it be there. But then I don't know. It was like
there's just a lot of gophers in the West. What do you want?
There's so many gophers.
That is true.
It was interesting. So it ended up being a little longer scene. It was still a fun scene because Nightson, who was playing the spooky, who took the Jinx power and always uses things that make like people just trip or fall down and get hurt. Like he botched a roll and filled the whole area with gopher holes, and so everybody who had to move had to make act under pressure rolls to not hurt themselves, and so everyone is falling down constantly.
I just didn't move.
Yeah, you just stand still, throw fireballs.
And it was fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't have to move either.
But we also had 6 players, which is quite a bit for Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
PBTA really shines, I think, with like 4 players, and so the game took a little longer than I had expected, especially the investigative bits, because we ended up with I think 3 or 4 groups that kind of split off to do investigation. Where with 4 players, it would have been a minimum.
It's not my fault that we split off 3 ways. I was playing a little old lady, and of course, I wanted to go find out what the knitting circle thought about the thing that was going on in the town.
Yeah.
So, everyone else split up into like pairs, and I just went off to go knit with the little old ladies.
Yeah.
I feel like we dominated that game splitting up like that.
Yeah.
It made sense. Like all the investigation, like all that information needed to get to you guys, so it got to you all individually. You came back together and shared it. It all felt like right for a Monster of the Week type game. It's just you had 1 or 2 extra groups, whereas a 4-player game probably wouldn't have had that many groups.
The sketchiest part of that whole game was when you sent the mundane and the spooky off to investigate by themselves, because the whole town was very close to just burning down.
Yeah.
There was points, especially then, where I literally felt the atmosphere of this is a syndicated TV show, and this is the comedic offset.
Yeah, you guys were
Right.
Scooby and Shaggy.
Yeah.
Except for Scooby had supernatural powers and accidentally burned buildings down.
Yeah, Scooby or Shaggy was a goth mortician, and Scooby was a little kid who trips people and lights things on fire.
Yep, for sure.
I will
Accidents
say,
just
like,
happen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so if you've not played Monster of the Week, flipping through the playbooks, you might think, oh, this is like a monster hunting thing, and all these things look cool. You could be a monster or a wizard or an angel, and all these things are really cool. The mundane is where it's at. Just be a normal dude,
Yep.
and you can screw with the chosen ones so hard.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Dude, okay, so that is something I did not expect to go the way it did. So the Chosen One has a move called Big Entrance, and basically it means
That was
when
the
you
best part of the whole
when
game.
you bust into a room, you can like you grab everyone's attention, and they have to pay attention to you until you stop talking. Well, that's really all the Chosen did. He would bust into a room, and because we had so many players, like by the time Spotlight would have gotten back to them, it was time to go to the next room. And so every time it was like, okay, Chosen, what do you do? Big entrance.
Yeah, but I was playing the Chosen One's Scam Gam,
Yeah.
and part of his speech was usually introducing the fireball that was flying over his head.
Yeah.
So I was kind of okay with it.
Welcome to the Gam Gam show.
Well, that's right. Welcome to the Gam
Gam
Show.
Show.
You know? And so when the chosen has established that his opening move is big entrance, then it becomes the mundane's job to get into every room first.
Yep.
Yeah, because the mundane really wants to run out ahead of the pack and get captured or get into trouble so that you can give your friends XP.
Yeah. So it's like as soon as one room looks like it's under control, I'm going to the next room.
Yeah. But some of
There's
those
a vampire lord in there. Cool.
Yeah. some of those scenes once we got past some of the early investigation and stuff, we kind of lost the bit of the Western feel, and it felt a lot more like the supernatural Western episode.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Where it was like kind of silly and a lot of jokes, and it didn't feel very Westerny. And so, like, something I would do different is probably try to reinforce that Western tone a lot more. And I would definitely, if I ran Monster of the Week, or if I run Monster Week again, I'll probably try to reduce the number of players, because 6 is a lot. For PBTA.
To be fair, though, towards the end, you should have never allowed the Chosen to use big entrance on caskets.
Okay. They were asleep. They didn't know you were in there. You open the casket. Might as well big entrance, right? And you failed and dropped the lid on yourself. So, what are you gonna do?
My only regret now is knowing that we should have been on a train, because I would have loved to have seen how Billy would have made that train go straight to the center of town.
Yeah.
For sure.
Suddenly the tracks go through a building.
Yep.
But yeah, so that's, I think I would try to reinforce the tone a little bit better, reduce the number of players, maybe have a more of a tone conversation at the top, because and I had fun. Like, I enjoyed the silly game, but it was not it didn't have that Deadwood feel, right?
We had this discussion this morning. Western is on a spectrum, and on one end is Deadwood, and on the other end is like Seven Brides for Seven Brothers and Oklahoma the Musical,
That's
and somewhere in the middle is Tombstone. And so, you just have to find where you fit on that Western spectrum.
We were definitely on the Seven Brides for Seven Brothers spectrum. I'm surprised we didn't have a dance on a board.
No, what was the
I thought it was a Doc Hollywood episode.
What was the movie, Cowboys versus Aliens or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah, it could have been kind of like that.
See,
but Cowboys versus Aliens was even more serious than this was more like the Doctor Who episode where there's the alien cowboy guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
You just gotta have a tone discussion of where on the Western spectrum is your Western gonna fit.
Yeah, I went in thinking kind of gritty, more of a, I don't know, like a Tarantino film, and then we ended up with more of a.
I'm pretty sure Billy and Gam Gam were definitely aiming for a different end of that.
Billy does not fit in your Tarantino film.
There was nobody had guns.
No.
Nobody took guns.
We all had guns. None of us used them.
Yeah, nobody used a pistol. I don't know.
I was not aware I had a gun. I threw my sledgehammer at people.
To be fair though, again, I assert that I am new, right? And if someone is going to do a Minnesotan accent at the top of an RPG, I will laugh and I will think it is hilarious.
That was a different game.
I understand that, but if someone's doing,
no matter how serious you try to make something,
if someone's Gam Gam or Billy, I just can't help all of a sudden feel this overarching need to be
turn
comedic.
It up to 11.
Yeah,
well,
man,
I don't think. I'll be honest. I don't feel. Oh, sorry.
No, I was just gonna say I can't help right now. I'm not skilled enough to be this serious RP
And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I think we should have set expectations, because I feel like maybe myself and End of Line started expecting the grit and we got the Gam Gam. It was the different end of the spectrum. And so I think if everybody had been on the same page,
don't blame Gam Gam.
No,
this
well,
isn't Gam Gam.
We got Welcome to the Gam Gam show, which
we didn't have a conversation ahead of time, and as soon as Billy was introduced, I was like, oh, it's the supernatural Western movie.
Yeah, that's true.
We have a tone issue with our game.
Yeah, which is fine. If we had talked about it ahead of time and everyone was like, we want to go silly, then that our expectations would have been there, and probably some of our descriptions and characterizations would have just gone full into silly.
Our group always goes silly.
Or you could have, on the counterpoint, if you had wanted to go serious, you probably should have vetoed Billy.
Well, yeah. I mean, I hate taking away people's fun, but I feel like you could have a spooky little kid. It's just the way that Billy exists when Nightson plays him is not a serious character.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to clip that Kurt saying, I hate taking away people's fun, and then I'm going to edit in the Discord conversation where I'm like, can I take angel wings? No, absolutely not. Fuck off with your angel wings.
Well, let's move on. We've got a bunch of more games to talk about here, so let's move on. Does anybody have their final thought on the Monster of the Week game? I know for myself, of all the characters, I loved every game we played that last weekend. But the character I played in Monster of the Week, I think, was my favorite. I really liked playing a little old lady who is unassuming, and then she throws fireballs at people, and so it was really fun to play Handor's grandma and throw fireballs.
It was really great to see you just like really lean into that character too. It was cool.
I was very happy to see you use the axe at the end for the final blow. It was a nice, funny end.
Yeah. It was good times.
I like Monster of the Week. I think every time we've played I've had fun with it. It's probably one of my favorite PBTA.
Yeah, I think it's my favorite hack too.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
All right, Nightson, you're up.
All right, for my game, I ran a Shadowrun 5e game because I figured let's put Handor through the screws and get him into a really, really gritty nuts and bolts trad game. And so my idea was a bunch of semi-established but relatively new runners would go to an undisclosed location to go check out a job, which turns out to be a convention for Shadowrunners, in which all the powers that be kind of put them through some tests, give them some experience, and trying to see who the new up-and-comers are. But at the same note, they, it still also was supposed to have this kind of convention feel with the show floor and, different people showing off their new toys. I'm just gonna skip my intro real quick. What went well is you guys took to it really well. I was even Handor, who has never dealt with something that heavy, kind of embraced it and rolled with it.
Mrs. Oreztes did really well with it too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we had another new player, and they both just went with it.
Yeah, it was fun. It was actually a lot more fun than I expected.
Well, it's always intimidating until your first roll, and then it's like, all right, pick up that pile of dice right there, and then throw it on the table, and then you didn't quite have enough, so pick up 6 more, and then roll them again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you talk about Shadowrun, it always sounds like this really heavy game with a lot of, and I think there is a lot to it, but Nightson, you always do a really great job of like handling a lot of the crunchy bits so that we as players can I rolled a bunch, 5s and 6s, cool, I've got seven dice that make it, what does that mean? Like,
yeah.
So you always do a really good job of doing like the heavy lifting part of the system for us.
And I will say about this game, I'm typically not a fan of pre-gens. Like, I hate pre-gens. But the one that you gave to me, it really resonated.
Your character.
What are we playing? Like a gnome murder bot? I don't know.
Yeah, it was a Tacticutie.
Yeah,
it was a little gnome Japanese schoolgirl with the M16 and a monofilament laser whip in her fingertip that I never got to use, unfortunately.
Yeah, I went with the pre-gens because anyone who's dealt with Shadowrun knows that there is a severe analysis paralysis when building characters in that game. There are too many choices for someone who's not intimately familiar with the system. And so I said, here's a handful of pre-gens. You guys pick what you want.
Yeah.
I dug the game. I really like your scavenger hunt games.
I do too.
When you run the scavenger hunt games for, like, I think we used to play a Shadowrun campaign, and one of my favorite games from that was Laundry List, I think is the name of the game, where you meet some crazy dude and he just gives you this list of random items. This felt kind of like that, where it was like, here's some stuff to get done, go figure it out. And it wasn't super dangerous, and we just took this list and we're like, all right, cool, we got to go get a picture with somebody. And we got to run out, and of course, I was playing the hacker, and every time I play a hacker in these games, I always feel like my character's gonna hate every idea that isn't hacking, and so they're just a little bit like, as the player, I'm gonna go with it, right? Like I'm having a good time and I'm playing with the other players, but my character is always just a little bit bitchy if the solution doesn't involve hacking into a server somewhere.
So yeah. It was incredibly difficult having a hacker in their group when you're trying to come up with a plan for overtaking, literally doing what the mission calls to do, and your hacker is like, no, that sounds terrible. That sounds like a terrible idea. You got the entire table going, yay, and you got the one hacker going nay to everything. You're just like, fuck, come on, man.
I still went to the thing.
The trick is to get yourself knocked out before the conversation about the plan begins.
Yep.
So as soon as you get put into a room with a bunch of other running groups, you immediately load your M16 with rubber bullets, jump up on the table, and start firing at everybody.
Oh, God. So something I thought that was really awesome that Nightson did is he made like the badges you wear at a con and gave them to each of us to wear that had like our pre-gen character picture on it. So we all put them on and we're sitting at the table and we're like, yeah, we're wearing our badges. We had like a physical thing. And then like after a while I was like, I think there's something in my pouch. And the guy who gave us our badges in game was like, yeah, just leave your badge alone. And so we were all like, oh, okay, Nightson told us to leave him alone. And about halfway through the game, I had like an epiphany, and I was like, I wonder, was that Nightson telling us not to mess with him? Or the NPC who gave us them? Well, because we just assumed it was you telling us not to do it, not the NPC. And so I said that, and of course, like, you know, Kurt playing our hacker rips into his and starts, and there's like a computer chip in there. And throughout the whole game, as the hacker, Kurt kept trying to like access the whatever.
So actually, End of Line was the one who
was it
ripped
Endo
open
that found
first.
it?
End of Line, and then as soon as he started opening his, somebody else pulled out theirs, and I never messed with mine. I never even like it had a jammer in it. I could have been doing stuff the whole time.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, because we were wearing these, it was jamming it so that you couldn't access the net or whatever. And if you had just taken it off and said in game that you like took that off, you would have had access to the. Yeah. But that was really cool.
So I'm curious, Nightson, was there anything that we missed? Like, was there stuff you had planned that we didn't get to because we spent so long?
So it was very. It's funny you bring that up. Literally everything. Like, you guys were 100% off rails.
Oh,
basically from the jump.
We were pretty crazy.
I basically, my original intent was you guys were going to show up, get introduced to the thing, play around in the booth the next day, and it was kind of going to be here's how to play Shadowrun. I'm going to, you go into the weapons booth, here, pick up a gun, shoot the gun. You're like, oh, this is how you shoot a gun, kind of a how to play the game kind of thing.
You didn't even go to the tutorial zone.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly. And maybe this is completely my fault. Didn't realize that, giving a bunch of morally gray characters here's some loose objectives, and them immediately going, well, the way to win, if everyone's dead, we win by default, right? And so the players literally spent the entire time trying to screw over the other teams.
Yeah.
He was like, okay, we're going to go into this. This is going to be a nice, easy tutorial. What do you guys want to do first? Well, let's take over the ship and kidnap the CEO of this mega corporation. Like, what?
Yep.
But we're not a shoot a gun. I'll figure it out.
Yeah, that's one way to learn. And so they end up taking a ship that was supposed to bring these dignitaries over that their entire goal was just to get a photo with.
Yeah.
No, we're just gonna gas the ship, take the guy, and remote into the ship and send it back, and then take the photo with the guy and.
And it worked really well.
Yeah,
it worked. Awesome.
Well, and that's.
I really appreciate you yes-anding that plan.
Yeah,
not being
was...
like, well, you lose the contest because all of my stuff was back in the booths.
Well, here it's one of the. I actually read a really nice article about Shadowrun, like how to run Shadowrun, a couple weeks prior. And it's literally the concept of Shadowrunners exist. That is premise one for the entire system. Mm-hmm. So anything you do like that makes it so that it doesn't make sense that Shadowrunners would exist, it fails. Like, you can't have perfect security because if the perfect security was available, Shadowrunners couldn't exist.
Right.
So there has to be something to exploit. And so it's counterintuitive, like years and years of running modules or running anything, to go, no, that doesn't work because the box text says it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And Shadowrun, you almost have to just yes and just to make it work, because much like a puzzle game where your players are never going to quite guess the ideas that you have, Shadowrun ultimately is just a series of puzzles. It's a room or a building, they have to figure out how to get in, and they're never going to think the same way you did.
Right.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
not to mention, I have to assume being a Shadowrunner involves a very unique ingenious of getting your way into and out of places, right? Things that just especially one person is going to come up with on their own. It's going to be a thing that is, well, shit, I would have never have thought of that, right? It's that it is finding exploits. That's what I feel like a Shadowrunner's job is to do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So,
No, it was really fun.
And then to push that, just want to toss that the part of the end of this competition was to escape via boat. And Oreztes had the great idea, well, if I get to the boats first and just blow them up and we have the only boat left, we win.
Yep.
Like, okay.
And didn't we steal the money from all the other groups?
They gave every group $250,000 and we're like,
get away with it.
These are political contributions that unfortunately are being stolen. Oh no, ShadowCon's over. Have fun. Like, we're all running off with our money. Yeah. Yeah,
it was great. So what do you think you would do differently next time?
Number one would be custom built pre-gens. I grabbed a bunch of pre-gens from the internet because I didn't want to take the 30 hours to do it.
Right.
And two of the characters just didn't quite fit. Two of the characters, and it's my fault. I shouldn't have even put them on the table as options. But I do feel that Mrs. Oreztes did not have an optimal character for the experience.
Okay.
Yeah, because they were like the solo mission type person, right? Like, you sneak in,
they were
stab the one person.
Yeah, they were Stabby Joe.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, final thoughts. Oreztes, you were going to say something?
I don't remember, so it was probably a lie.
Blowing up the boats? Something about blowing up boats? No?
I was gonna say I did like that the two other teams that got to the water before us, we were able to disable their ships and then hold them ransom, and then go on a little pirating side quest at the end, real quick.
my final note on this is, oh my dear God, like, could you guys have any less hot dice that game?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That entire weekend was full of like the players, heavily on the player side.
But
For
literally
sure.
watching Gigett roll her shooting and then getting something like 25 successes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was a lot.
From Shadowrun has a mechanic when you spend a luck or a Benny or an edge or whatever you want to call it, you can re-roll sixes, and she just kept rolling over and over and over.
Yeah,
It was
And I
25
was
successes.
switching die too, which was the crazy thing. Like, I would roll a 6, so I would set it aside, roll a different die, and so it's not like I was just rolling the same die and it was just landing on 6. Like, I had my entire dice pool out there, and it was a hot roll. It was awesome. It was amazing.
Yeah,
I blew up a boat.
How much does it cost to buy 25 loaded D6s?
Less than you'd think.
Surprisingly less than you think. Yeah.
All right, so turning this back on Gigett, you ran a game for us.
I did. I ran Dungeons and Doggies D&D 5e adventure. I actually used the adventure that came with the Kickstarter Dungeons and Doggies Kickstarter bundle stuff, because I backed the Kickstarter and we got to use the minis, right? So when are we going to have an opportunity to play a game in person with minis? Because we play all our RPGs online now. So this is the opportunity. So everybody got to play Doggos. The adventure was, everyone was what's called an awakened dog, which means they're sentient and they have powers, and they can talk like humans, and there's only one of each breed of dog awakened in the world, and so 6 of these doggos get basically teleported to this town where an evil druidic circle had abducted all of the domesticated dogs, and we're trying to free them by turning them feral, because no animal should be domesticated. And so this town summoned our hero doggos to come save the the village doggos. It was really fun. I don't run modules that often, so it was definitely weird to have to try to follow the scene by scene of a module, because that's not usually, I usually write my own stuff, and so then when I decide to the players decide to veer off left from the story, it's like, oh, okay, that's where the story's going. So it was definitely weird for me trying to keep the doggos on track.
Mm-hmm.
But it went really well. You guys did everything that was in the module. You did a lot of cool stuff. I added a few things that were in the mod because I thought the mod was kind of boring. There just wasn't enough flavor to it, so I added some flavory stuff. But otherwise, you guys did what you were supposed to do. So
Nice.
yeah.
So I have a question. So you said you added some stuff. What did you add?
So at one point you guys encountered 2 dryads.
Mm-hmm. The tree ants?
Yeah, they were supposed to attack you if you tried to touch the pool, but I thought it was more funny that Handor kept slamming into the barrier around the pool over and over again, and that's all the damage he took. Most of the game was self-inflicted from running into the barrier. And so rather than just having them attack you guys, I'm like, no, they're going to keep that barrier up and let Handor keep trying to hurt himself. If you killed the druid who was controlling the dryads, then the dryads would talk to you and offer you a reward for saving the pool and make you a tree and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. There were just a bunch of little things that I added because the mod felt very flat. The NPCs didn't have much personality, and
Right.
there just wasn't a lot of detail, so I added more detail.
No, it was fun. I had a really good time in that game. 5th edition D&D or D&D in general is one of the games that I struggle the most with, forgetting about the mechanics and focusing on the roleplay.
Yeah.
And so I have a tendency in that game to think about the mechanics too much and how to get the most whatever out of the strategic placement of the game and that kind of stuff. And
right.
So I do remember losing track of what was going on because I was more concerned with where someone was standing.
Right. Yeah, and I think at one point, yes, Handor, the birds were coming through your mic. They're not anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I think at one point I started to get wrapped up in what the mod was saying and not paying attention to you guys because you were having some in-character doggo talking, which was kind of neat, and I would have really liked to have been able to pay attention because you guys were doing a pretty good job at role-playing as puppers and making decisions as dogs would and making jokes in character as dogs, and it was was really great. And because I was concerned about what the module said was supposed to come next, and so I was trying to I read it several times, but sitting there with it in front of me, it's okay, what am I supposed to be doing next? And so I feel as the DM, I ended up missing some of the interesting role playing that happened between some of the characters because I couldn't focus on it. I had to pay attention to the mod. So yeah. So I think one thing that could have gone better is unfortunately for Handor, when we all made characters together for this game, he made a monk, and you're a kind of a inexperienced 5th edition D&D player, and so the whole spending key points and how to be effective as a monk, I actually have never played a monk in 5th edition, so I don't even know the rules well enough for that particular class to oh, you can do this. And so I was relying a lot on Kurt and the other guys at the table to oh, you could do this or you can do that, to give you suggestions on what to do. And so I think what it ended up being is you didn't, from my perspective, it seemed like you didn't have as much fun because the character was kind of complicated and maybe you didn't feel as effective in certain places. And so, that's to me, I think is something that could have gone better if we had made you something that as a new player might have been a bit easier to jump into to 5th edition.
Yeah.
I mean,
go ahead.
for sure. there's I mean, I still had fun, right? To the point of like role playing where a tiny chihuahua was constantly trying to sit on my face to pronounce his dominance over me, and force a German Shepherd to submit. That he was the alpha dog. I
think the Chihuahua Barbarian was the best decision. That was amazing.
I just constantly imagined this little tiny Chihuahua, like you see the German Shepherd or the big dog, with his, laying his head on his paws, and the Chihuahua just like sitting on his snout, being like, I have you now, big dog. You submit to me. I am the alpha here.
All you would have had to do is accept me as the alpha, and you would have got advantage on all your attacks.
So, so that was still a lot of fun, like the role playing aspect of it. But as far as like playing the character and trying to be effective in the world that we were in, with a group of players who are far more experienced than myself. We had a dog that was capable of every round summoning a new,
Sorry,
group of.
That was because of a wondrous item, though. It wasn't his class. It was because of an item that he picked. Which honestly, that's something I would have changed too. I probably wouldn't have given everyone a wondrous item just to play the game with, but it was suggested in the mod, like, let everyone pick one of the things. If you're going to play it as a one-shot. So
most of those items were fine. The one that I picked, they neglected to mention how often you could use the item and how it functioned. And so it just said you could summon a swarm of insects. It didn't say you had to cast the spell summon insects or that you had to concentrate on it or that there was any limit on. So the only limit was 5 times per week. But it's a one-shot, so I summoned all 5. And they didn't die. So I had a whole bunch of swarms of insects.
And we all ended up having fleas, and we all just ended up being transport doggos
you were flea delivery systems.
Flea delivery system
for the boss. And especially a very effective one being the catapulted Chihuahua off of the
Saint Bernard.
What was it, Saint Bernard? Yeah.
Well, that wasn't a wondrous item. That's the sorcerer. Yeah, that's the sorcerer healer variant from Xanthar's Guide to Everything.
Yeah.
That is super good, by the way. That is a very good support class. I like that one a lot.
I really enjoyed the Bard Corgi, though. That was I really enjoyed getting to see a Bard played well. That was awesome.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I
enjoy Bard in 5th edition.
Mm-hmm.
I would definitely consider, probably, if we were doing a 5th ed campaign, after playing Dungeons and Doggos, I would definitely have to seriously consider playing Bard again.
Yeah, for sure.
I'd probably very strongly consider the sorcerer healer, because applying meta magics to buff spells is stupid, and catapult is super fun.
Catapult is amazing.
I mean, that only
when your character is 5 pounds or less.
Yeah. That's why the catapult worked.
Yeah, because you're a Chihuahua.
Yeah.
It's the only reason.
Yeah. But what I would do differently next time, I think I would have written my own adventure. I think it would have. I would personally, as the DM, would have had more fun with it, and I would have been able to focus a little more on. And there's our doggo. Focus on what's going on with the players rather than having to focus on the game itself. So that's what I would do differently. But as players, do you guys have any final thoughts before we move on?
No, I think you did a really good job. The things, when I shut up about the mechanics and listened to the stuff you were saying, like the plot was really fun. I got a stick from the tree ants and became one of the trees, so that was fun.
This was a game where I felt like tone was exactly like tone should have been.
Yes. The tone was right on.
Yeah, we really nailed the tone on that one.
Yeah. And speaking of tone, let's move on to our next game, which actually was our first game of the weekend. We played 10 Candles. So what I wrote here as my note is everyone died, so that's rad. But we played the in the 10 Candles book. There are suggested I don't know, story prompt type things.
Story starters or something.
Story starter type stuff. And so one of them was that all of the players are on a resort island when the lights go out. And the only thing it really tells you is that the Coast Guard can't get to you unless you get to the north end of the island, and you think you might see some light up there, so there might be some survivors. That's basically what the story prompt says. Everything else is made up by the players at the table, and if the facilitator ever actually rolls a success on their dice, they get to take the worst.
Is that a
dice
mechanic? Is there a mechanic for the GM actually succeeding in a roll? Because that never came up.
It in the entire game, I only got to add things to the story if you guys super failed and had to blow out a candle, and 2 times I beat y'all with the dice pool. Even when you guys were rolling 2 dice and I was rolling 8, you were still beating me. I was rolling nothing but like 1s and 3s. Like it was.
You rolled like hella trash that whole.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah,
it was hilarious.
Yeah. But it ended up being really interesting. The 10 Candles, you get to write, what is it? Virtues and
a virtue, a vice,
and then
a hope,
brink.
and a brink.
Right. And so Nightson had written the brink, and passed it to me and said that he saw them coming out of the water. And so that was kind of the only part to what are they going to look like for me to kind of go from there. And so I just decided that it was going to be kind of like a slithering snake serpent type thing, and that I would just describe like the water moving and slithering and the beach being covered in blood, and as much as possible try not to describe an actual monster, because not knowing what it looks like I think makes things more scary.
For sure.
So I honestly, I think everything went well. The whole game went really great, and you guys were very entertaining to watch. If I could have anything go better, it would be that I rolled any successes so that I could have taken some control once in a while. There were a couple of times where we would do the opposed roll, and I'd be like, oh, I have such a good idea for right now. And then I would fail, and I'm like, motherfucker, now I can't make this cool thing happen, right? But I thought it went great. So, yeah, what are your thoughts?
Still my favorite story game.
Yeah.
Just the way that it works, where your character gets developed by your friends at the table, is a neat, cool feature. You're basically given this kind of archetype and an understanding of what your character is and what this experience that you have to build the character around in a flash. That's a lot of fun. The character development has to happen fast because you're all about to die. So you're kind of forced to work together and get to know each other really rapidly, so it doesn't drag out. It's kind of like, okay, this is me, this is you. What are we doing? Right. Like, what are we doing here? So the game kind of engineers itself, which is incredible. Like, it works itself out because of the tension it builds and everything like that. I love the system a lot.
It did work. I did for seeing it for the first time. It's kind of crazy how well it just gels, like instantly, the way it does, and just to I don't know. It's just very interesting. Very, very interesting for me. A very strange experience. Because what am I trying to say? So, one of the characters, Oreztes' characters, we ended up just being like, bros the whole time, right? He had to carry me almost the entire time, almost the entire campaign, and then ended up like saving my life at the end, and our insurance guy who it was just cool. It was a really cool thing. Very interesting.
I think that Kurt's character going from this Minnesota guy who got sent to a insurance conference for work, who was just really happy and like everything's gonna work out okay.
Yeah.
Ended up with the darkest moment in the entire game. The players met this little family, this mom and dad and this little girl. They were the survivors that were still on the north end of the island. They were all that were left. And when it was time to get on the boat, Kurt's character was the only one that knew how to drive a boat, that they had established he was the one who could drive a boat. And he failed his role. And the only thing he had left in front of him was his brink. And his brink said that
they have seen you leave people behind to survive.
Right.
Yeah.
And so first thing he does is he tells Dad, hey, could you run back in and get some more supplies? We've got more room on the boat. And so Dad's like, yeah, okay. So Dad runs back into the building to get stuff. And Kurt's character drives the boat away, and Mom and the little girl are on the boat. And Mom starts freaking out. You're leaving my husband. And so Kurt throws her overboard into the them. And she dies. And
I think I failed again.
You failed again, and you had to, yeah.
Yeah. And I had to toss someone.
Had to toss somebody.
Keep using your brink
She-
as far as
Well,
I
she
can.
got hysterical and grabbed the wheel.
Right.
Right.
And
That
so,
was why.
was my
So he's
failure.
like, okay.
right.
Yeah.
And so in order to roll again, he tosses her overboard and then succeeds his roll to keep the boat on course. And it was just, this game that was already really kind of dark and scary and ominous took a very even darker turn at that moment when Kurt's character, I mean, there's only, 9 people left alive in the world that you know of, and you just threw 2 of them overboard. It definitely brought the tone of the game very, very.
I think I was the
Also-
first of us to die too.
Yeah.
Also, keep in mind that we're playing this in a completely dark room with, little tea light candles.
That kept
And
trying to
so-
go out on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Those candles were janky.
the atmosphere is already set, right?
Mhm.
And so to be in the moment where you're just like seeing faces across the table from you flutter, and you feel like you're talking to these people in a survival situation in the dark, you put yourself in that moment, and then you campaign through all that, and you make it, like you feel like you're making it, like this is our moment, we got gas, we've got supplies, let's get out of here. And what the guy that you've been traveling with this whole time on the island goes, and you hear him say this, and your stomach just sinks, right? Because you just found this family, and it's like, wow, okay, and I think they even helped us out,
It was my hope too.
Your hope
Right,
was
right,
to
right.
My
find
hope was
people.
to find more people,
Find-
and then I ended up killing most of them to get us off.
Yeah.
To get us in the boat.
There were 2
So-
really awesome moments for me. Oreztes was one of the last people standing, and he kept succeeding to beat back the them and save himself over and over. I mean, there were several roles that he succeeded in and would not die, and I thought that was really cool. But I think the last stand moment that stayed with me the most was Mrs. Oreztes, because she had taken it on her. She was playing like a divorced drunk lady who was like, here to party. And so her character was trashed because she has been drinking the entire time. And she takes that moment to protect the little girl who's left. Her parents both got murdered by Kurt's character. And them is coming, they're trying to break into the cabin of the ship that you guys had gotten to. And she's standing there trying to fight them off, and she fails her role. And the whole cabin fills with the them. And that to me, I think, was the most lasting memory of one of you dying in the game, was her that last stand trying to protect this child, and then both of them just disappearing in this wave of slithering, writhing bodies.
It's very depressing.
The end of Dread is always depressing.
Or 10 Candles.
The end of
It
10
is 10
Candles.
If you haven't played it, 10 Candles is written by Stephen Dewey. It's definitely one of the best story games I've ever played.
So let's pivot and head over to Oreztes for TVZ.
Pivot.
What? TBZ Tenra Bancho Zero is a weird anime inspired game, and this one The party was trapped in a walled city that was under attack by an airship, and there was also mechs and demon summoners and ninjas and Blade and Goku and Spider-Man, and they killed an old lady by punching her into the core of the earth.
All of those things are 100% true.
Yeah.
Those are factual statements.
Yeah.
So as you can see, I like ridiculous stuff in the games that I run.
That
Yeah,
game
so it
was
was-
bananas.
Yeah, so the story was the diplomat princess, who was also a robot, was possessed by a demon, and she murdered everybody with the face sword, and you had to rescue her. That's pretty much it in a nutshell. TBZ.
As,
There was a
as
green
ninja
chicken.
princess,
It was a green chicken.
The green chicken, yeah, that's I
And,
forgot about the green
Miss
chicken.
Oreztes really wanted that green chicken.
So she'd been playing Final Fantasy 14, and she just got her Enkidu minion drop from Gilgamesh. So she's been on a green chicken, kick for the last few days.
Is it like a baby green chocobo, or is it a green
No,
chicken?
it's literally a green chicken. It's Enkidu is a demon, and then you kill it in one of the first Gilgamesh boss fights. And then he's like, well, you killed my demon, but now I have a green chicken who is also Enkidu. Don't hurt my green chicken.
So
And
what
so
do you,
now she's like, I need a green chicken.
so what do you feel like went well with your game?
I feel like everybody got to do ridiculous stuff. So I feel like that was okay. I like the interactions between the players. I thought you all caught on with the Ike chits and basically throwing bennies at each other for doing cool things and saying cool things. So
Oh
I
my
feel like
God.
all that went well.
Mrs. Oreztes role playing in that game was amazing. She was so great in that game. From when we made our characters, you roll up your random tie with another character, and hers was for my character, and all it said was why?
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 That's how she feels about my character.
Why do you exist?
Yeah.
It was fair. It was a fair
It
assessment.
was fair. It was a very fair assessment. I decided to go full Valley Girl with my character.
Yeah.
And she
It was-
decided to go dark demony with her character, and so
Yeah.
it just really fit that her character hated me the whole time.
Well, she was the half Ayakashi hunter, and the Ayakashis are like the demons in the world. So yeah, she was the Blade character who was like, I'm half Ayakashi, but I hates them. I'm gonna kill them.
And they barely just tolerate humanity in the first
Yeah.
place.
Pretty
Right.
much. They don't really understand humans or how they work or why they do anything. So she's just kind of like, you're a princess. Why are you here? And why are you from the valley? And why do you talk like that? And why do you do the things?
And
Yeah,
why am I
I-
not allowed to kill you?
I went as incredibly whiny Valley Girl, as annoying as possible, which is also a higher pitch tone of voice than I normally use, and so I ended up hurting my vocal cords and had this gravelly scratchy voice for the next 3 days, trying to recover from using such a high pitched whatever kind of voice, and it really hurt. It hurt.
The relationship between
it
you-
hurt.
Oh man, the relationship between you and Kurt was so
Hilarious.
it
was cringy as hell.
legitimately-
It was
Oh,
so cringy.
I could not wait for those characters to accidentally fall off that area.
The Ayakashi and I were sitting next to each other, and every 10 minutes we were secretly plotting a way to kill you both throughout the entire game.
I do not doubt that at
No,
all.
legit was happening. We were like, okay, if I take him out during this next scene, you get her. We could probably dispatch them in one round.
I was playing the Oni punk, who I had too many things. So that game is weird. The way that you spend your points to make your character. I bought way too I didn't know anything about the game, and I just bought all of the cheap things. So I was like a fallen monk and a lost soldier and a punk aristocrat and a demon slinger and all.
And a
It was just
Buddhist
too
monk.
much shit.
And a monk.
Yeah. Oh God, it was so much stuff. But the only thing that really came up in the game for me was that my character was obsessed with Gigett's character. Yeah. And
That's,
so
that's
anytime,
like the random relationship he rolled up.
yeah, and that I had to be the center of attention. And so anytime she wasn't talking, I would make myself the center of attention. And as soon as she started talking, I would just give her the center of attention and start shouting at people to pay attention to what she was talking about,
We were the
which was
most-
vapid and awful.
We were the most annoying couple ever.
Yeah.
And the good thing about TBZ is it's designed to split the party. Yeah. So those, like, you guys were interacting, and I was like, cool, that's your party. Everybody else.
Yeah, we went shopping for like scarves and stuff, and the rest of the party went to go like, do the plot of the game.
We stole a scarf.
Yeah.
I don't know, because I didn't think I had any money, so I just took it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so you guys stole the scarf, but then when Spider-Man started filling up a sack with silk, it was like, okay, well, that's payment because you guys are a group.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that game was bananas. So what do you feel could have gone better?
I think if the party would have stayed split the entire game, because the way that I had kind of wrote that was I had just threw you guys in the city and then wrote different scenes for different areas of the city. And it was just like, go nuts. You guys go wherever you want, do whatever you want. The thing is happening, like the event is happening regardless of what you guys do. So
Right.
if you're shopping in the town square, hey, there's an airship. It's attacking the castle. It's dropping shrapnel and chunks of splintered wood and metal on the town square. You should probably do something about that.
Right.
So, like, it was going to happen regardless of where you guys went. And then there was branching, the end result is always going to be you're going to wind up at the castle. How you get there is up to you guys. So there was like, you could have approached from the ground. You could have hijacked the airship and approached from the airship. So there was multiple ways. So that way, if the party would have stayed split, you guys would have eventually made it to the castle together. So I think if the party would have stayed split up a little bit, we would have had more focus on the actors and the audience. That probably would have been cool.
I can make you a guarantee, Oreztes, and that is this: that had you not role played a woman, the keeper of the inn, to have made passes at me early on, so that when stuff started going down, I assure you, I would have been much more likely to stay on the ground as opposed to doing whatever I could to get out of that inn.
Trying to escape the old lady?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
Definitely
Yeah,
tried
for
to escape
sure.
the old lady, for sure.
But she was so sweet.
So is there anything you
Yeah.
would do different the next time you run this game?
She was a D4C.
Well, if you guys are ever interested in playing it again and I decide to run it a second time, I would probably, I think the thing about TBZ is it's so different from traditional, like every other role-playing game where the number one, rule for tabletop games is don't split the party. I think now that you guys have kind of experienced it and you know that it's absolutely fine to split the party and it's a benefit to split the party in this game, that would probably be the only major difference would be like, split up. I don't care. Go nuts.
For
Do
sure.
whatever you're gonna do. Just make random and ridiculous and awesome characters and do big stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny, like the tone of it, because you build your character, and you're like, this character is ridiculous, but whatever. And you're playing, and you go in expecting, okay, this is going to be ridiculous, and you don't fully get it until you're halfway through the game. You're like, okay, everyone is stupid ridiculous. This is literally you taking 6 different animes and stapling them together, and it apparently works.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, like anytime one of the characters can be thrown by a giant mech directly down the barrel of a cannon, an anti-air cannon mounted on the wall of the
I
castle.
forgot about that.
Yeah.
Just to say, and then it just explodes, and then he just goes like a smoking body just goes flying through the air, lands on it. I'll be fine. Just give me like 10 seconds.
I know your regen
The
health
wor-
endo was
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, the worms won't let me die. This is fine.
I have to ask if Miss Oreztes had failed her catch when she kicked me off the front of the ship.
Mhm.
I have to say, what would have happened to me at that point?
You probably would have just bounced off some buildings and eventually
That
hit the
fine?
ground.
Check your dead box, bro.
Yeah, right? Just check that
Yeah,
dead box.
that's what the dead box is for.
Okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that game was so bananas. Yeah, when she's like, okay, so I kick him off the thing, it was like, wait, what?
Yeah, I had just
Throw
started
him
like
off
doing.
the airship.
I had just started doing my charge up. I'm like, two sessions into this charge up. I have 5 that I can do.
You were like Kaioken
Like-
level 2.
300's me off the front of the ship. I'm like, no, my charging.
Oh, all right. Well,
But yeah,
let's move
some-
along. Last but definitely not least, we played Dread, ran by End of Line. So, Endo, give us a recap.
So, I kind of, after I ran my last Dread game, I kind of wanted to try and see how Dread would work with fantasy. Now, obviously with some Dread components, but I kind of want to do a more fantasy-centric kind of Dread game. And so I had this idea of making a campaign a Dread game based on magic and colors. And so you guys were basically the eldest sons and daughters of your independent houses of a large village, and you were given up by the village elder as tributes to this tower that was protecting the community. And basically the goal was you guys had to go to this tower and endure a bunch of trials to become apprentices to the ruler of the tower, who you then found out was actually protecting and trying to rebuild the entire world. And this was far in the distant future. The world had been destroyed, and your village was encapsulated in a magic field she was allowing you to live. And so it was true that she needed you to become apprentices to take the kind of baton from the children from the last 50 years to continue to protect the village. It was supposed to be less of the gory getting things cut off and getting burned and acid and stuff like this, and more about you having to endure damage through magic and then having interesting things that affected your block pulling. For anyone who's played Dread, I have my own. I've basically made some radical changes to it. Not that it needed it, I just thought it'd be more interesting. But in my case, everyone that's playing the game has their own independent tower. It's not one tower that the team pulls from. And in my last game and in this game, in the last game, we had things like when you'd lose a finger, I would hand you tape and gauze, and you'd have to wrap your finger, and you couldn't use that finger anymore. Or if you lost an eye or both your eyes, I would give you an eye cover, and you couldn't use that eye anymore. You'd have to pull the tower.
I don't know if you brought this up, but when he says pull from a tower, he's literally talking a Jenga tower.
Oh yeah, sorry.
We're all the game is playing Jenga as you take damage or make skill checks or whatnot.
If you're not familiar with Dread, it's written by Epadiah Ravachol, and it's you can find it by searching for Dread, or we'll put a link in the show notes to go buy it. It's a really great game.
Yeah.
Sorry. So continue.
No, that's fine. So yeah, everyone has their own Jenga tower. So all 6 of our players had their own tower that they were responsible for. And as they had to do things like Nightson said, if you wanted to do something, or if you had to take any damage to your person, you would have to pull an amount of pulls on the Jenga tower. And the goal is, if your tower falls, your character dies and game over. And this one, I wanted to do things that made the pulling of the blocks more interesting and challenging, and how the damage would be taken to your character would affect you in different ways. That would kind of make it more fun and interesting and different. And that was kind of my goal with this one.
So what do you feel like went well?
I feel like I had the opposite problem that I was worried about, was that the puzzles would be too hard. I actually found that a couple of the puzzles were too easy. I think one of them was a little more difficult than I had a plan for.
Was that the drinking potions one?
Yeah. The drinking potions
that
one
was hard.
Yeah, that one was really tough. And in my notes, I have to figure out a better way of handling that. I kind of want to have a puzzle like that, but it was really, really difficult.
I liked that if you drank the wrong potion, it turned you into stuff. So, like, even though it was very difficult to solve that puzzle, it wasn't just like, oh, you took damage, go pull 3 cubes or whatever. It's like, oh, and now you're a Wendigo, or oh, you're a werewolf or whatever, which I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, the weird way of pulling blocks, or the making it more difficult to pull blocks, was an experience.
I was the first one that got turned into a werewolf, and that happened like really early in the game. And so I ended up pulling all of my blocks with these big werewolf gloves on my hands. And so it had like these long rubber nails, and so I would have to like use the nails on the gloves to pull it out, because like if I tried to use my fingers, the nails would get in the way of the block and like knock it over.
Yeah, if you follow us on Instagram or Twitter, then you can see the picture of Gigett and Nightson trying to pull blocks with these gloves on.
Nightson definitely had a harder time than I did, though, because his hands didn't fit in the gloves.
Lord. Well, no, my hands didn't fit in the gloves, so I had to play Jenga like this.
Well, what's worse with him is he also had all the colors.
Glasses.
The kaleidoscope glasses.
Yeah, he had to wear these glasses that made everything you looked at a different colors of kaleidoscope. So he had to do that while wearing the gloves.
Yeah. And take my regular glasses off to see through them. So I couldn't see. Then I had to look through these kaleidoscope glasses, which you could only really see well if you like look through one sliver of the glasses. Then I had lobster going on. And to make matters worse, I'm laughing so hard.
Oh,
my
his
eyes
whole
are
face is
completely
red.
tearing up. I couldn't see anything. And I'm like, if I take this off, I'm never going to be able to get back to this point. So I'm lobster clawing playing Jenga and then dropping the blocks on top of the Jenga tower. And it's like shaking the whole time.
I'm amazed you didn't die.
Yeah, I am amazed as well.
Too.
That was literally the last one of the whole thing. So
I had to pull the most blocks out of everyone in the thing because I just kept. My character was supposed to be stupid, and so I just kept running headfirst into shit. But none of my pulls were anywhere as difficult as what Nightson had to do. Like I may have pulled the most blocks, but it definitely was not as hard.
Did anyone end up having to use the you can only see
The upside
90
down
degrees?
glasses?
Yeah.
Oreztes had to use the 90-degree glasses.
Yeah.
Yeah, I closed my eyes and pulled blind by touch because I didn't have anything weird on my hands. I was like, well, I can do this because if you're like the glasses just look straight down. So I put them on and I was like, hey, that's my foot. I'm gonna close my eyes and just do this and like try to find the blocks because I was like, there's no way to do that with everything like at a weird angle. It was so disorienting.
Oh, it was so great.
Accidentally grab one of the things and just pull straight up.
Yeah.
But
But I would have liked to have seen, because he did bring the blocks that were like the Jenga tower, the special Jenga tower that was just different colors
Oh, yeah.
with the dice, where you would have. I would have loved for somebody to have got a weird random colored Jenga tower and then wear the kaleidoscope glasses and be like, I have no idea. What's happening?
Yeah, that tower was supposed to come out in the first room, but you guys just alphaed that room hard, and you figured it out and got through it in like 2 minutes. So you guys actually missed on a few different things that could have gone in that room.
Yeah, that's the struggle with puzzles, is that they're either too easy or too hard.
Yeah. But and that's okay. I really, really wanted to play test this game because it's a puzzle game. Like if you're gonna run Dread, I really, really have to play test it before you like bring it out to a con or something like that, because the pacing can be dramatically wonky, and there's a lot of tuning that like I have the ammunition I need to go and retune this thing to make it where I think I'll be happy with it. But yeah, the first run of it was pretty.
So what do you think? Sorry, go ahead.
My favorite part about it was in the first room, getting the wooden ball puzzle and dismantling the whole thing, and then giving it to Kurt, and then watching him get more and more frustrated through the entire game.
Me as the player got mesmerized by your puzzle, and I got trapped in. It was funny that my character and me were trapped for the whole game, because I ended up like basically just paying attention to this puzzle for like 45 fucking minutes. And then when I looked up and it was like, what's happening? We were in like three rooms had passed. Like I pulled blocks. I know that I had to pull blocks. I had the puzzle because if I let go, it would fall apart. I had it in one hand and I'm pulling blocks with the other hand. And then like something happened to me in the game and my character got shot into the future, lived for 48 years and brought back. And I'm like, well, he's still working on this fucking puzzle. Like,
I gave it to a couple of the guys from the Dread subreddit. That I worked with in my original Dread game, my horror Dread game. I sent them, and one of the things that one of them said to me in Reddit chat was, well, how do you know if you give them this puzzle that one of them is going to break it apart? Because the goal is you get to a part of the game where you need the puzzle combined back to like apply to a cauldron. And they were like, well, how do you know someone's going to break it? I was like, oh, bro, I've got a lot of problems, but that's not one of them. Once I put this on the table, someone will 100% break this puzzle apart.
And within 2 seconds, Oreztes had it in his hand and was just going, blook.
And didn't even pay fucking attention. He just goes like this. He just like finds it, and he's not even looking at it. It's out here, like under his thing, and he's just throwing them on the ground. And then he throws them on the ground. And he goes, Someone could put that together. You dirty son of a bitch.
I would say that might have been a blessing in disguise, though, because Kurt gets really frustrated with puzzle games. So by missing 3 rooms, we solved the puzzles and just kind of dragged him through the game a bit. So, yeah, you were frustrated with the physical wooden puzzle, but you weren't getting frustrated with the rest of the game. So,
and I figured out what it was. I had one piece upside down.
Ah.
That's why it wouldn't work.
There you go. So what do you think could have gone better in your game, or what could you have done differently?
A couple things. The entryway part, where you guys were in the garden, you had to deal with the glass puzzle. I think I need to make that. I don't think it should be a trial by error thing. I think I need to give you some way of identifying
a key.
The goal of touching the glass. Like, you know what I mean?
Is there a way to do that without getting stabbed or whatever?
Yeah. So basically, what you guys are going to do is someone actually, whenever someone touched the knocker, whatever, like you did it. Katie touched the knocker. Well, anyway, if you guys have a rose in your hand at the time when you touch the knocker, it doesn't zap you, and whenever you touch it, it's going to give an auditory response, to let you know which of the colors is good and which of the colors is bad, and then you know to touch those individual colors.
I told you guys, I was dumb. I just grabbed that knocker and was like, bang, bang, bang. That there was no like, is this a puzzle?
So the flowers do play into.
Yeah, they did.
I knew they did.
I had a feeling they would, because playing Dread before, we came up and he was like, there's a big thing of flowers all over. And I was like, that's foreshadowing. I'm going to go get one.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first room was way too fast. I needed to dumb that one down, or I needed to... I need to undumb it. I need to put more emphasis on the room's design and the things that are in the room more to make you more interested to go and touch things. Oreztes almost touched one of the books. That was a big thing. Touching the candles was a thing. Touching the tapestries was a big thing. I thought for sure one of you would go and touch the tapestry. Right. I need to give you incentivize making a bad decision and touching things that you're not supposed to. But here's the problem with playing a Dread game. Having played Dread before, you don't want to touch anything. Mm-hmm. Like at least my game, you guys know better. And so I think if I put this in front of a group of people who have never played Dread before, I think they have very different responses than you guys, just because you're kind of tuned in to say,
you definitely get some suckers.
Yeah, because you kind of need that in a Dread game.
May I asterisk a note for you early on is, if you have people like, because this was my first Dread game, right?
Sure.
If you have people who haven't played and then they witness people losing fingers from the first thing, right? So I'm automatically not even played this game before. I'm automatically going, I've made the choice. I'm not touching shit.
Yeah, we know all about that. We literally had to have the whole group grab someone and like strong arm them into like. putting
I
their
thought
finger
you
in
guys
a
were
box.
gonna do that to me. So I started out, because this time we actually had characters that weren't us. And so my character was like calculating and smart and like selfish. And so I was like, well, he's just going to be the one that stands back, and eventually they're going to have to grab my ass and shove my hand in a finger trap. And it never happened. So
there was at one moment where you were so distracted by the puzzle that I almost in character was like, well, obviously we grabbed Kurt's character and shove his ass in the and then it wasn't necessary, but I was almost there. I may have been the person
doing that on purpose. Like the character would have stood back and like waited for everyone else to get hurt and not put in his share. And
yeah.
so I figured you guys were eventually going to have to push me into something.
Yeah.
What I just for my personal inquiry into me retuning this game, what did you guys think about the pedestal puzzle with the creative person in the cauldron?
I like that. I thought that
It's
was
a cool idea.
My
You lucked out with having someone with some creativity be that person.
Well, I didn't expect someone to perfectly mold. Like, it was not the expectation that I needed it to be like a good representation. It was supposed to be just a general.
Yeah, if I could change anything about that game, I would have had somebody else choose that character, because now Mrs. Oreztes is like, hey, I think I want to go to Michael's and get some modeling clay. And
she's so good.
She was hella good at it, honestly.
She was.
So
I'm like,
good.
Dude, that rabbit was crazy.
Yeah, are you artistic at all? She's like, no. I'm like,
Yeah.
10 minutes later, I'm like, fucking bullshit,
Yeah.
lady.
She made like the fist, and it like looked
I know,
like
the
fingers.
This was crazy.
I was like,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah.
My
that was
problem with
awesome.
that room that I had not considered until it played out is that each one of you has a role to play, but that person has something to do the entire time. So
I don't think that's necessarily a problem, though. I don't know.
Yeah.
To me, it was entertaining, even though I wasn't actively doing anything in the scene, except for one moment when I got turned into a werewolf.
Yeah.
So anyway, final thoughts. Anybody? Final thoughts on this game?
I mean, it was fun. I think something that I would try to include, and this would get people to pull more bricks, is in character skills mattering for the challenges. Like, give us something that requires not just our brain power, but like the physical actions of the characters to say, oh, well, you have to hold this steady while they do a thing, right? Go pull 2 blocks or whatever. That way the characters are doing things, because we didn't pull as many blocks as I thought we would, or at least Gigett pulled a lot. But like with the way that you've changed Dread to everyone having their own thing, you're gonna have a lot more pulls to balance it out so that it feels edgy. Because there weren't. Obviously, I was stuck in a loop of trying to fix this fucking puzzle the whole time, but it didn't feel as tense, at least from my perspective.
You just missed like half the game, so that's.
It felt pretty tense for me.
One of the things I noted needs more damage. That's like that's like the first bullet point I put in our doc.
What were you gonna say, Oreztes?
Or not more damage, more pulling. It could be skill or otherwise.
Yeah,
The last
general,
pull
more
that I
pulling.
made on my tower, it was pretty wobbly. I wouldn't have got through many more pulls.
Mine almost fell on my last pull. If I had to pull one more block, I would have died.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how you want it to go, right? Like, if you want there to be... And the other thing is, we're playing characters this time, not like regular people. We're playing like fantasy characters. So having things where, oh, you have a skill here, you have to be the one to do it, or like, it makes sense for you to... So, like, having things come up in the game that cue us to say, like, oh, well, the person with the perfect balance trait obviously needs to do this task to spread it out a little bit more. That way, because, like... Gigett ended up pulling mostly because she was the barbarian, or like the dumb one. So she was just or she was impulsive. So she would just rush into things and take all the damage and get all the weird stuff happening.
Yeah, but if I had died, somebody else would have had to take up that mantle.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, anyway, we had so much fun at Pixelcon.
Yeah.
These are the kind of games we play at Pixelcon. Next week, we'll be back with another episode, back to our focus topics of our Nerdcast. But before we say goodbye, Kurt, where can people find us on the internet?
People can find us all over the internet, Gigett. They can head to pixelscandal.com, where they can find past episodes. They can find links to our social media. They can find links to our audio feed in iTunes, Spotify, anywhere they want, or they can find links to our Twitch or YouTube, where they can either watch live or see past episodes in video form. They can find links to our actual plays, like our side quests, where we have guest GMs come on and run other games for us, or they can find Agents of SIP, which is our current RPG that we're running. Episodes 1 and 2 are up on the website. You can go watch those. They're 2-hour episodes and really good. Or they can find out ways to support us. So if they like what we're doing and they want us to have a little monetary gain, they can find our Patreon, where they can become backers and get backer rewards and see little behind the scenes videos we do after our shows. Or they can find ways to subscribe on Twitch and help us out that way. And then if there's, let's see, what else? There was one other thing I wanted to mention, but I can't remember, so it's fine.
There you go. Well, cool. Well, like I said, we'll be back next Sunday at 1 p.m. PST Pixel Scandal time for our next Nerdcast. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
See you, everybody.
God damn you, Handor.